This is 3, 4, and 5 of the 9 types of courses in the Before, After, Beyond MBA curriculum from Knowledge Epitome. Uh, 3 is operating west, east, and in China. 4 is making you powerful and you making powerful results. And 5 is starting up businesses. These are categories of courses, which I'll be explaining. I've already explained the first 2 of the 9, and this is 3, 4, and 5 of the 9. Operating west, east, and in China is Eastern companies operating in the West. And it's really tricky for an Easterner to operate in the West because of the articulation gap. Asian cultures on the whole are not written cultures, they're oral cultures, and their own writing interfaces are so difficult with such heavy cognitive load and burden that everything in life is done face to face and personally. And that's because people are avoiding writing, and therefore their minds are not conceptual, and Buddhism is anti-conceptual, and not organized, that in a way that only writing organizes thought. So you're constantly dealing with unorganized thought and personal experience reaction. And therefore, when people train their whole life like that, go to the West where everything is written and brains are organized and everything is articulated, they really can't function at all. They come across as childish, and they are. In terms of brain training, they simply don't have what it takes to operate with Westerners at the speed that Westerners and the accuracy that Westerners operate with. Now, there are emotional and slow to develop experiential aspects of situations which Westerners will tyrannically overrule with blind bias categories because they are so Descartesian and don't value experience in the body and social life very much. So there's a balance between the two. But Easterners operating in the West really have to accommodate to the fact that they have no brain from the Western point of view, no articulation, and their brain thoughts are not organized, and they cannot operate at Westerner speed as a result, and therefore they're always behind, and they're always an anchor slowing everyone down. And their appeals to experience and emotion look childish in the West and slow things down and are inaccurate and fuzzy. And so they're constantly trying to reach agreements where what the agreement is vague and therefore not an agreement when you try. So they say that, Japanese are really good at an agreement once they reach it. That's baloney. It's so vague and ill-defined when they agree on it because it's never articulated. And their brains are not organized because they avoid writing all their life. And reading, they don't do reading in colleges. And therefore, we all agree on X, but what it means is so various that no one agrees on what the X really is. In Western companies in the East, it's the opposite. You have these arrogant, tyrannical fathers, cognitive Descartesian, only thought counts, elite people count, ordinary people don't count. Keep information from your staff and your employees to protect your own power and turn everything into a status ranking game. And the East Asians have seen this on their TV programs. They've seen American and British TV programs for decades. And they absolutely abhor the brutality and dictatorialness of Western fathers and families and bosses at the workplace. And so you are already known and hated the minute you do any of those behaviors as a Westerner in the East. And most managers are, particularly CEOs, are absolutely unaware of the contempt and the humor directed at them by everyone in the workforce, not some people. Every single employee thinks they're a fool, and that they're barbaric, and they're uncivilized, and they're tyrants, and they're insecure little monkeys constantly fighting for themselves and not the company. CEOs who promise to give a prize to the top salesman and then just forget the top salesman's victory, forgets to give him a prize because underlings just are nowhere on the radar screen of foreign executives. And they're so Descartesian that people don't count, only their own wealth counts. And part of that is the psychopathic education they get from ordinary MBA programs, which doesn't help anything. And part of it is that CEOs reward themselves for being nice to people to rise to the top. The first reward they give themselves, they no longer listen to other people. That's his Grint's book on leadership. So that's Western companies in the East. All companies in China, and China in all countries. And so 4 courses there. Then they have the next category is making you powerful and you making powerful results. And this is a course called How to Rise to the Top of Every Field through what's called Excellent Science. I actually asked 8,000 people, eminent people, at the top of 63 fields and from 41 nations, how they got to be to the top. And they defined 54 different ways to the top of any field. And this course teaches you those 54 ways. And then I've got another course, How to Become a Creator and Create. And we actually ask 150 of the world's best creators, 5 each in 63 fields, 41 nations. How did you become a creator? And they gave us 64 steps. And the common steps out of all the steps they gave us are in this model of 64. And that's how you can become a creator too. Guess what? And then number 3, the study of business error and how to avoid it. It turns out quality and achieving quality is not quite the same as errorlessness and problemlessness. And there's a whole new field emerging of errorlessness and problemlessness at work. And then part of this is business liberal arts, the history, philosophy, and literature of debt, profit, of effort, of excellence, of competition, of fair trade, of development, of wealth, of all these things we think we know and words that we bandy about, and you push against any of them and look at the history, philosophy, or literature of any of them, and you discover, wow, they mean a whole lot more than I thought they meant. And wow, my casual image of them was very dangerous. I'm glad I got rid of it in time. So this is one way that you deal with error management. The liberal arts of business are the beginning of an error science, because only in history, philosophy, literature, and comedy do people tell real truths and not lie and exaggerate much. And then the third part is starting up businesses. That's the third type covered here. And that's making small businesses great with 64 methods. Basic startup dynamics for high technology ventures, taken from interviews of 150 Silicon Valley founders that I did some years ago. Protection dynamics. And this is so important in all the business schools leave it out. You're going to be eaten alive unless you are sneaky about what you present to people and how you package what cooperations and alliances you build with people. And then borrowing growth. Get this idea that you're going to have a home run hit product out of your mind. Look at somebody who does have a home run and make a service that most of those users are going to want, and borrow growth. And then the technologies and techniques for borrowing growth effectively, since everybody else is trying to borrow growth too. How do you borrow growth better than they borrow growth? So those are the 3 middle elements in my, this is 3, 4, and 5 out of my 9 element types of courses, out of 50 types of courses in my Before, After, Beyond MBAs part of Knowledge Epitome.